Well, hey, what's up, YouTube? What's up, Bible collectors? Today is the day that I've been waiting for quite some time, and that would be the day of the 3-year crash test of the Eagle. That's right, the Cambridge Wide Margin ESV is back for more crash test reviewing pleasure for you, my viewers. Hey, before we launch into it today, let me just give you a word from our sponsor. And our sponsor today would be another YouTube page, Faith Evangelical Presbyterian Church, where you can go and check out my sermons. If you believe the Bible is true and you are on a mission to share Christ with the world, then you'll probably like some of my preaching, and I would urge you to go over there and subscribe. All right, just a little quick ad today. Let's go through the Wide Margin Eagle again. I've now had this Bible for 3 years and use it as my daily driver. In fact, what I would suggest is that I have now read this Bible straight through 3 times, 1 per year, and probably the New Testament maybe 5 times total. I did a little interesting checkup on my notes. Now, you know, of course, that the purpose of a wide margin is to take notes in the margin. And I did a little survey of how many notes I've actually taken in these 3 years. I went to 10 random sample pages, 7 from the Old Testament, 3 from the New. And I did a little averaging, and I found out that I take about 6.3 notes per page. And you multiply that times a book of over 1,000 pages, just over, and I've probably taken somewhere in the neighborhood of 6,526 notes in this book. Average about 9 underlinings per page. Again, so that'd be about 9,288 underlinings. And I write about a half a symbol or so in each page. So I've probably written about 619 symbols throughout this work. And I'll show you a little bit about what it looks like. As you can see, if I just flip through on any page of the wide margin, there are just tons and tons of notes that I've been collecting for quite some time. Some pages are more filled than others, but as you can see, I use the top margins, the center margins, the column margins on the outside, and every once in a while, look at this. Here's a page that has nothing on it, but these are very rare and few in between because I have notes practically everywhere. So what I'm trying to establish here on this 3-year crash test is that this Bible has been subjected to very heavy usage in the 3 years that I've had this Bible. In fact, although I don't take it everywhere because I usually use my Pit Minion as my travel Bible, I do have what I call my travel log in the back of my Bible. Right here indicates the number of trips and journeys that I've been on. I have taken this Bible around the world with me to Thailand, as well as to some seminary classes when I was doing my doctorate, and various presbytery meetings and what have you. This is also my primary preaching Bible, and so it does get used and abused quite heavily. So let's go ahead and talk about how well this Bible has held up over the years. I will let the cat out of the bag early and tell you that this Bible, as I ruin a page, is holding up amazing. Beginning with the outside, the goatskin cover of this Bible has virtually no wear and tear. In fact, I'm starting to wonder what I would have to do in order to get some wear shown on this book. I'm almost embarrassed of the outside. It looks like I hardly use it after 3 years, and yet I'm using it every single day. A little bit of wear right here on the spine where the Bible sets on the table and where I move it around a little bit on the table. There's a little bit of wear there. But as you can see, even the gold lettering on the spine looks nearly flawless. The ribbons have been ripped out and replaced a couple of times, and so my headband now looks ridiculous. And of course, the gilting is being chewed up all over, everywhere around the Bible. In fact, what used to be a fairly nice staining of the art gilting on the margins has now kind of worn off so that it almost just blends with that grayish, brownish look of fingerprints all over the page edges. You can still tell that it was once art gilted, but it's nowhere near as profoundly beautiful as that salmon color used to be 3 years ago. Okay, I noticed this last year, and I will mention it again, where I do believe this Bible is eventually going to fail, and that's going to be right here where the tab is tabbed into the block on this paper side, not the pleather side here, but this paper side is where the tab is eventually going to break. So I've gone ahead and preemptively just put down some of that clear Gorilla style tape right here, and I'm assuming that that's going to give me a few extra years of usage for this Bible, because I don't plan on stopping using this Bible anytime soon. Okay? Of course, we've got the standard wrinkling that happens on the beginning of every Bible, and I think one of my problems actually is going to be that there are certain pages that are almost getting too filled. You can see I've preached in the story of the fall and creation several times now, and that's going to be probably a bit of a problem eventually as I just run out of room to make marginal notes. In fact, wherever I've gone through the Bible and preached series, for instance, well, let's go to Timothy here. Preached an expository series through 1 Timothy. We'll find that it's going to be harder and harder to use some of these pages, and so I do kind of wonder what's coming in the future as the margin space is just used up. Will I like that? Will I find it unsettling to have no place to write? Not 100% sure. Let's go ahead and just look at a couple of things that I've marked out ahead of time that I'd like to show you. One of them, people ask me this all the time, how do you progress in your reading through the Bible? Well, basically I take 4 tabbed markers and I space them throughout my Bible, and I read 3 chapters in the morning and 1 again in the evening. And what I do with my Bible is I follow this chart, which I've created just as a Word document. It's a little spreadsheet of every chapter in the Bible, and I go through and I check them off as I read them. And you can see here that I've got a few more chapters to read in the Old Testament. I've already completed the New Testament for my reading for this year, and so that's how I kind of work through my Bible systematically. Wanted to mention too what I do with some of the blank pages in the back. Some people have asked me what I do with this stuff. The Cambridge Wide Margin comes with several pages where you have letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth. And I've decided to use that for sermon illustrations on illustrations that work really well, or illustrations that I would use in multiple sermons. Although I find that I tend to write my illustrations more in the margins than I do here, and so I have not used this as much as I should. The line spacing, however, spaced paper with lines I use much more often. I have a key of symbols here that I use throughout my wide margins. Symbols for the doctrine of grace, the Trinity, covenant theology, messianic prophecies, passages about the atonement, so on and so forth. I've created a little key so that I can simply cue primary doctrines to this series of symbols. I created for myself here a few days of daily prayer, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Lord's Day, etc. Certain passages that I might want to pray, certain days focusing on confession or praise or thanksgiving, respectively. I have here a column of funeral sermon ideas that I'm going to preach at some point in the future. If you preach a lot of sermons, sometimes you need to write down ideas for them. Heidelberg Catechism number 1 I have here. Here's a couple of Bible reading plans. Here's a bunch of notes on the covenant and covenant theology. Here's Old Testament prophecies of Yahweh fulfilled in the life of Christ. Here's ideas for one-off sermons. Normally I preach expository sermons working through books of the Bible, but in this case, every once in a while you read a passage and you say, man, I've got to preach on that. Well, I just write them down right here. Also, this is important. I have several books that I'm working on or writing or composing, and so I leave certain dedicated spaces for ideas on books that I'm writing or going to write in the future, Lord willing. I hope to have a book on the strength and vibrancy of the local church maybe next year, and here I already am planning out some ideas for that. Let's see, what else did I want to mention? Overall, I would say this about the wide margin. The strength of the Bible is excellent, in terms of its physical composition. The paper is unrivaled and unsurpassed almost anywhere in any Bible, and I do review quite a bit of Bibles. The Cambridge Wide Margin has among the best paper that's out there. It really is excellent for writing. Some people have asked me, what's the best writing implement to use? Of course, a lot of people like the Pigma Micron pens, and I can't argue with that. I've used them quite a bit in this particular book. But I will simply say that, to be honest, a regular ballpoint pen, a Bic pen, is just about as good as anything else that I've experimented with. Some of the gel-based pens and whatnot, they tend to bleed through a little bit. But I have not really stressed about bleed through too much because the paper, by and large, negates that problem with the Cambridge Wide Margin. And also because, quite honestly, I don't care if my Bible is a mess because I kind of like it that way. And that's what makes it so winsome to me. I've thought a few times about what I would do to replace this Bible. If I didn't use this Bible, what would I use? And it's hard to come up with an answer to that because although this Bible's weakness is probably how big and girthy it is, it does come in the Pit Minion edition, so I can take my Pit Minion wherever I want to go instead of the Wide Margin. So I can't use that as an excuse. I couldn't say that there'd ever be one that's built stronger or has better paper than the Cambridge Wide Margin, so I wouldn't do that. I don't know, maybe I'd start off with another Cambridge Wide Margin Eagle, I guess. At least for me, it's the Bible I love. And if you're interested in getting one of these, would you please check out at the bottom in the description of this video, right down there on your YouTube, there's a link to Amazon.com where you can hop over and get the Eagle in goatskin leather. A lifetime investment, and one that I will review again next year in October. Thanks for checking in. Love you lots. See you soon.